You know what they could have been also, they could have been lines put in years ago and abandoned and never
Yeah, maybe
used.
that too, yeah. They have a lot of water leaking out of them, so,
It could be a number of things. with it.
yeah.
Hey, Kurt. Hey, Kurt. Hello, Kurt.
Hello, Pete.
Hi, Kurt.
I know. Fuck. No, I know, I keep telling you, it's just a couple of $1,000. And it's like, this guy was thinking about it, I know. Hi. Yeah, that's on me. Good.
We can just get this water straight now. We can figure out.
Everybody, a little job in Westchester is like all first property.
Rob's on his way.
Oh, good. And the reviewer said that he's done with the supervisor and someone else. He doesn't like how we have a bunch of stuff. He said, hey, you should change how they sell books. It's like, it's not even that stuff.
Hello, how
Diana.
are you? Hello.
How are you?
It's like,
Hello.
come on.
You gotta drop it on some.
Or close enough.
Yep. I'm so used to having turf in my garden. I looked right past it, perfect.
You cleaned your car how many times?
Bunch.
Okay.
Get rid of some stuff, so it's piling back up again.
I saw those.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's only so much I could do.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Lou, you can put your truck in and send it out for, refrigeration too.
Oh, yeah, tomorrow.
Hi. Nice to meet
Where
you.
did you have to
Rob
pay?
Temple.
No, the guy comes to the house.
Oh,
Yeah, it's the unit inside.
Diana, I didn't want to just assume to give that. Oh, I'm just giving it back.
yeah, no, I was just wondering. Well, it's good that they come to the house.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Otherwise, you go crazy trying to find something. All over the place.
No way.
Mabel,
Wait,
let me
one day.
introduce you guys and go summary.
Everything going around. More heat.
Report.
We're supposed to get a break for
Yeah.
a couple of days. then
Perfect.
go
No,
on
I
back
know.
again, they say. See my trip sounds a little.
That was the, I
I'm
felt
sitting here
like
looking
around.
around.
You don't have to.
2 weeks.
I left my sport coat in the car.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to the movie.
My apologies.
That's all right. I'm regretting putting it on.
Oh. Hot, no?
You know,
When's upstairs gonna be better? Close?
It's right, now they're talking about holding off on the AC.
Andrew just
till
got back
next-
from-
Till the winter, because it's too expensive, so I don't think we're gonna get up there until this weather, till the end of summer. It's
It
winter,
ain't
right?
any hotter than Phoenix, Arizona. That was 115 degrees.
It's much
No,
hotter
a
up
friend of
there.
mine in Las Vegas area posted
The last second, oh, there we go.
It was cooler in the Grand Canyon than it is down in Phoenix.
That showed an awesome, that's
There you
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Let's see what time it is. 6:58. Joe's coming, right?
Yes.
Glad you did your update up there.
Yes.
Oh, Joe's here now.
Right now, it's on to, mine doesn't show off my house for 3 days.
There's Karen's here.
It's just stuck, still trying to push it.
Hello. Hi. You. Yes, how are you? Okay.
Hey, Karen.
Hot. Hey, Joe.
Hey.
Beautiful, sun's out.
Yes. Hey.
And I get up myself.
Just me?
That's you.
And then so it's good pies, yeah, you can, got good fun. Rain. Stop.
Good.
You're out.
Rain stopped. Well, that's good, now
Come on this side.
I know, I just walked in. I can
You
actually
look like rain.
Excuse me.
Mhm.
All right, welcome everybody. It's the Tuesday, July 9th, 2024, planning board meeting. Open with the roll.
Oh,
We'll do the pledge after.
Emery Lagori is not here. Rob Fisker.
Present.
Lou Misella.
Here.
Pete Canelli.
Here. Ooh, would you like to lead us?
Pledge. Stand, please.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Phil. You guys had a chance to go over the minutes?
Yes.
from the last meeting?
Vivian, that was,
Very
that'd take you
excellent
a
meeting.
little time for that, right?
A
Good
little
job.
bit.
Good job.
did an excellent job.
I thought the minutes were better than the meeting.
Vivian didn't miss too much, I got news for her. I don't think she missed anything.
Yeah, I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
First on the agenda tonight is 146 East Main.
Good evening, everyone.
Kurt?
Kurt?
Okay. Well, I'm sure as you are all aware, as you pass the site, the property owners have made great strides in getting that building into compliance with the approved plans, and it's looking pretty good.
It's beautiful, actually.
So, to that end, they've been diligently working with trying to find a tenant, the right fit for a tenant, and some of the comments that have come back is we need more seat count and to make it viable and more parking. We were limited with the 135 seats with the previous approval due to the water usage and the deficiency in the village, but now that we seem to have more water available, we're proposing to increase the seating count to a maximum of 300 in the restaurant. And in addition to that, the property at 140, which contains the two-family residence right now, that's under similar ownership, basically. Tom said it's on that parcel also. So what we're proposing to do is actually, both parcels are in the R2 zoning district, and then the restaurant was given a use variance to let that be in the residential zone where it's not permitted as of right. So what we're proposing here is to actually subdivide the 140 parcel basically in half, and combining that parcel, or that part of the lot which is currently lawn, to 146. So that would basically bisect the property, leave the two-family residence on the remaining lot, take down the garage, which isn't really much use on that property right now, keep that lot within the R2 zone district, so that remains in a residential zone. The added portion that would be added to 146, we have petitioned the village board to rezone that property into a B2 business zone where retail, which includes restaurant use, is permitted with special permit on that site. So that might just clean up some of the ambiguities through the years with the use variance and things like that. There will be several variances that are still required due to the existing configuration of the houses, of the buildings on the lot, and doing this, but it allows us to get a total of 60 parking spaces on the site where there's currently 40. Really no substantive changes to what was approved on 146. It's basically going to provide additional parking here, and actually the traffic circulation on the site will be improved because we kind of had a dead end before with the parking on 146 here. You'd have to back up and come out if you couldn't find a spot. This way we have circulation around the site here, keep the existing curb cut, and allows you to circulate within the site much better. So I think it works pretty good. We're going to be providing, there's currently a wood 6-foot-high stockade fence which runs between 140 and the adjoining parcel to the north. That will remain, and we'll heavily plant this area in here, leaving a 20-foot plus strip in here for plantings, and really allow that to give a vegetative buffer as well as the fence.
So you're actually taking the planting and you're just moving?
Yeah, basically it was approved here.
Right, you just-
We're gonna push it up here.
You're gonna just push it north?
So 100 and some odd trees that are.
Yeah, and it's gonna
they're
basically
be
ring.
at least 6 feet tall?
Yes, it's the same as we had agreed to with the previous approval, but we'll bring that up into this area.
Because I know she planted along 22, but they're only about 3 feet.
Yeah, so we'll get some better trees up in here, and definitely along here as specified we had before.
I think there's generally an optimal installation size for plants, so, you know, like it's like you can't go in and necessarily like plant a 18-foot high tree, right? Because it may fail. There's an optimal, so you
Right.
should just
No, but
research and let us
well, we
know.
spoke about it
I think we
originally.
had-
Lou brought it up, he wanted about 5 to 6 feet.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Premature, because you want little 3-foot trees and they're
Understood,
taking
yeah.
years to grow to block.
So the
off
tallest
property.
optimal planting
Yeah, I
size.
think we had agreed on 6 feet. I think
Okay.
that's like a bald and burlap tree, about 6 feet tall should be.
Okay.
I'm not, yeah, I wasn't too concerned about the Route 22 side,
Right.
because I wouldn't
No,
want,
you're-
I wouldn't want large
You
trees
were-
there
you
anyway,
were-
blocking out the restaurant anyway.
Right.
You were concerned
But
like
along
on the
here.
side where the house is gonna be in the
Right, yeah.
back house along the other side there, I remember that. I also see you stuck the generator pad back in there again. I thought it was gonna be moved to the side of the building.
It doesn't fit.
But you can come back and tell us
Yeah,
this.
well, but it does not fit in this location here. So here, it's basically, there's an existing shed here at the back of this property. The residence is towards the front of the property. We have a fence here. We'll have more plantings. We can get more plantings around that. It'll just allow the generator to work properly, and
Noise barrier around the generator.
yeah, that's fine.
I think that's a better spot for the generator
Yeah,
anyway.
and honestly, I mean, it will probably have a weekly kind of just a check on it.
Yeah, they do that, right.
But,
They do, supposed to.
right, but I don't think the village typically loses power that often, so hopefully it won't have to run for any given time.
Well,
Not really.
I have a generator. It goes into check mode every Tuesday,
It's once a week,
9 a.m.
yes.
Yeah.
For an
Yes, yeah.
hour.
Yeah, I think we.
Yeah.
For an hour?
It's like
Yeah.
20 minutes.
Really?
10 minutes.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Mine's 10.
Yeah,
I don't know,
supposed to
it
be
seems
about
like
10
it's a
minutes.
long time. Okay, but,
I agree with you, Karen, when we had them in the firehouse, they come on once a week, every month,
Yes,
an hour.
that's-
Cut the whole building.
I don't
out
think it's an
once
hour,
an
but we
Okay,
can
that's
check on
fair,
that. We
because
can
I
check
Gotta
on
make
that.
sure they work.
I
But
could
it
be
is, but it
wrong.
is, I think it's a weekly check.
but couldn't we switch the generator with that nice tree? I mean, I understand that you want the tree.
This here?
Yeah.
Oh, certainly,
Right?
yeah,
So let's use that
This-
nice tree to buffer this property from the
not a
adjoiner.
problem.
Okay.
Easy to do.
Is it gonna be propane fed or?
Yes,
Natural gas?
propane. We don't have natural gas.
Yeah, no picture.
And that's what these tanks are for here. So
Well,
they'll
I know, I
serve this
saw the new
and the
tanks
generator.
went out, it's just.
Yeah, so that will serve both the generator and the.
And the cooking
and
in the building?
Yeah.
Is the flagpole still there, Kurt?
We're gonna relocate it. We haven't define exactly where it's gonna be, we'll let you know where we propose it and see if we can put it somewhere that makes sense.
And just, you should actually have it lit at night. If the flag is gonna fly 24 hours, it should be lit.
Get Q, get the one with the light on top of the pole, or get one with spotlights going on?
I think there's ones from below, tend to look nice.
Yeah.
I think-
Yeah, the ones, cause the ones up on top, they,
Yeah, I think from
Batteries
below, it's
die
kind of,
after a
looks
while.
like glow from underneath.
they look better.
So I think it's been to the village board for the rezone. They, I believe, referred it to the planning board to take a look at it. We know we need to go to the ZBA. I think if the board agrees, it probably would be most appropriate for this board to act as the lead agent on this. So if that's the case, and if possible, I think there was a couple minor comments that Karen had on the EAF, which we've modified actually, and if we can authorize that to maybe circulate if this board wants to declare itself or intent to be lead agent, then we can circulate and get that process rolling.
We've done that in the past. So Joe, the comments on the EAF are pretty insignificant.
Yeah.
So he could revise it, and
Yes.
they could motion to circulate upon
Definitely.
revised copy.
Yep, definitely.
So you need a motion from us, to say we'll be the lead agency, right? Right, Rob? Need a motion?
Yeah, to fair intent.
Mhm.
So I'll make a motion that we'll be the lead agency on this very template, so we get this project moving and get it finished.
Yeah, let's get this getting going, is right. I'll second that motion, Pete.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think there was a few engineering comments that we're working through, and they'll get resubmitted to the planning board, and as well as Karen's response for hers. I think we've got most of the planning things straightened out. I think it's just the engineering, just working through those, a couple things here and there with.
How many variances are you gonna need, Kurt?
I think I need to sit down and go through it with Karen and just
Yeah.
make sure that we've got everything, and the code official, just make sure we have everything covered with variances, because it is very unique, this site, so.
Actually improve the traffic pattern 100%.
Yeah, I think it's gonna work a lot better to be able to circulate around there. If you can't find a spot, you have a chance to not get bottlenecked in there.
And one thing, you gonna continue concrete curb all the way around, or are you gonna?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
that'll be all the way around.
Why did you wanna have it put in the B2?
I think I think there were several scenarios that we looked at. I think we thought it might be the cleanest way of looking at this and putting it in a business zone where it's actually permitted rather than relying on the use variance.
It also comports with that strip
Yeah, the
in
B2
that
zone is
area.
just
On
up the road
22?
from there.
Yeah, and the comprehensive plan does have these two lots indicated in the future land use
Right.
map. It has them listed as commercial retail use in future land use, so it really complies with the comprehensive plan as well.
So we don't know what kind of restaurant yet, huh?
Nope, we're trying. I think we've got some people very interested, but I think we need to assure them that we'll have a little bit more to make sure it's viable for them.
Understandable.
My read is that the urban regs do not apply to this project, because there's no structural development.
Yeah, I took a look at that too, and I think I agree. Well, I don't think I agree,
Yeah, so what we're doing actually is pouring concrete and putting asphalt road in.
Yeah, like I said, there's really no substantive change other than the parking areas here, but this is pretty much as is, as was approved.
So
It'll be
the,
tight off the back of the house, looking at the footage you give them, but can we get it in there? Small backyard.
right, so the residential lot will require some area variances. But the B2 lot, will the nonconformities just be legalized by the rezoning, or
By
will?
virtue of the rezoning.
Right, so you won't have to get area variances for this lot because you're being rezoned and you come in as pre-existing legal non-conforming.
Okay. So it's really the small lot, the residential lot that's gonna need the variances.
That's right.
Okay.
Unless you were to do something new on the lot that required a variance in the new zone. you know what I mean, but I don't see that.
Yeah, at
that's-
this point.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm
This
sure
is
we'll take a
what we
hard
did.
look at it
Right,
and just
yeah.
make sure, but if that's the case, that's great.
Which is another reason why this is the cleaner approach. Instead of having a book of variances, just
Mm.
clean it up.
So, so there are lot line changes, and then, it's kind of like lots of lot line changes, or one lot line change and then ultimately a lot consolidation, depending on
Yes,
how you.
yeah, because basically we're splitting one lot in half, then that one extra piece becomes merged to 146, so.
And so there's no definition in the code for lot line adjustment or any of that. Basically, this all comes down to being a minor subdivision.
It does fall in that category?
Yes. There's no new lots being created, so I think a major subdivision starts at 4 or 3 or something like that, but we have no new lots here.
No,
We start with,
Splitting that one.
Mhm.
but then we're gonna consolidate.
Consolidate.
So you go from 2 to 2,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay, I say we continue to move forward here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too many more questions at this point today.
Okay, so we'll get the revised EAF, I'll submit it to you, Viv, as well as Karen, just so she can look it over. If it's all good, we can circulate, do we know who we're gonna need to circulate to on this?
The village board,
Yeah.
the ZBA, DEP,
Mhm.
yeah,
DC?
DEC.
Okay.
We always circulate to
Yeah.
DEC.
Does county planning need this?
Yes, county planning needs this. I'm just trying to think if, county health, is there any county health needs it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's 6.
And then we have, Pawling Joint Sewer Commission, and I don't know if they need it or not.
You might as well send it to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Heard it when you heard.
Yeah.
Just send it to everybody.
That's fine. Just make another copy, no problem.
You're really not touching the sewer, you're not really touching the water, you've already got the upgrades and the pools on that.
We're just gonna upgrade the seat count, which we're just gonna need a blessing from DEP and DEC for flow. That's all. Okay, good.
So you could consider setting a public hearing.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah.
For the next meeting?
I think that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, it gives us enough time, right? Or-
I mean, it gives us a month.
Yeah.
It gives me time to submit the public hearing,
Yeah.
the public hearing.
We don't need to hear back from any agencies before we have.
No.
No, you'd want to hear from them before you.
Did it?
Yeah, so, keep fingers crossed, maybe we'll get everyone responded by the public hearing date.
What's the next meeting date?
Next meeting is August 13th.
Okay, so it's a little over a month, so. Okay. I'll get that to you tomorrow, if I get Karen's blessing tomorrow, I'll get it to you, Viv, and then we can get these out.
Yes.
That'd be great.
Yeah. But
Perfect.
do we have to?
Yeah. Motion to.
I make a motion, we have the public meeting, hearing next meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anything else?
I guess we're set, huh?
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
See you next month.
See you next month.
Okay, very good.
All right, next on the agenda, 64 East Main Street.
Evening. I'm John Watson from Insight Engineering. We're representing Mizentop Day School for a lot line adjustment. Mizentop owns several tax map parcels. They have frontage both on Route 22 and East Main Street, driveways off of both ends. Their neighbor to the north on 22, it's the Charlie Daniels Brian Belindy building. That's under separate ownership now. It used to be all under guidepost ownership, so all the properties were under one ownership for many years. And what we're looking to do is, this building here was sold off separately, and Mizentop bought the rest of the properties. And there's a section here, it's part of the, it's now owned by Golden Rose Holdings, is the actual record owner. So the Golden Rose property, there's this 15,000 square foot parcel, or piece of this, that's actually a retaining wall and part of the soccer field that Mizentop uses. So Mizentop owns the lot that has the bulk of the soccer field, but there's a portion of the field and a retaining wall that's on the other property. When they were sold off, it just wasn't cleaned up. So we're really here just to clean this up, do a lot line adjustment. There's no development proposed. We're just looking to move the lot line from here to here.
Karen, you have any questions for me?
Well, did anyone take a look at the village records to see if there was an approved site plan on file that might have any conditions that we would need to be knowledgeable about? Okay.
Well, I have one question. What's the 30-foot easement used for?
That I don't know, but I saw that in the comments. We can look that up. We have a title report, so we'll figure that out.
So schools are permitted with special use permit. So I don't know if there's a special use permit on file for this. That's another thing we should look at, is to see if there are any conditions written into that. So this would, anything here just updates the file, right? So it updates the special use permit.
Sure.
Obviously, they're not changing the use or anything like that.
Yeah, do you guys have paperwork in the agreement that the school had to use that, or even build that field? They must have been given permission.
It was
by
all,
previous-
like I said, it was all, when it was built, it was all under common ownership. So it was just built because it was all under common ownership, and it was sold off, and inadvertently, after the sale, they realized that it's not on the same property.
Part of the field down there.
Yeah. I think it was built about 20 years ago, the field, in the wall.
Sorry, who owned it then?
Guideposts, which is the Norman Vincent Peale Foundation. They owned all of the property on the map. And Mizentop they rented the property from Guidepost for as long as they've been there.
Oh,
And they just recently purchased the property.
okay.
Seems like a pretty simple fix.
Yeah, I just recall Dwayne Lake Academy was housed in the Golden Rose owned parcel in that
Yep.
building. And I feel like they had told us when they were here, whenever that was, that they were gonna use that area for a soccer field.
They would have permission from the school, because that encompasses, the entire soccer field is in that, basically that
Yeah,
area there.
they do use the location. I did ask the school today.
Okay, so is there a change to that agreement?
No.
Meaning, would they be able to continue to use that?
Of course.
So you're gonna allow the school that's there still to use the soccer field and everything else?
Just so I'm clear, the school, Mizentop Day School bought all of this
Right.
from Guidepost. The school owns, it's the school's field, it's their field. The school leases to Dwayne Lakes and Stages. So they're their tenants and everybody's friendly, and yes, they do have permission to use the field. And they will continue to have permission to use the field.
I'm just concerned with the easement. I wanna know what the easement is for.
Which easement?
You said you got a 30-foot easement on the property.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think it's at the south end.
Back end or something.
Down
Yeah,
here?
yep.
Yeah, we can look into that.
That's,
So there should be a table that indicates the compliance for the
Like a bulk
realigned
table.
parcels.
Okay.
for each parcel, so that
Okay.
we know, you know, we can just be sure that there aren't any variances needed.
Okay.
Then we did have a question about the catch basins on the Golden Rose parcel as to whether a drainage easement would be needed.
Yep, we'll look into that.
Okay.
Regarding the easements, I know that this building is 12 feet off the front property line. I think it's a 20 to 30-foot front line. If it's a pre-existing non-conforming condition that we're not making it worse, would we still need a variance for that?
That's a good question, because you're changing the lot size.
But it's getting,
You're
it's getting
changing the
smaller.
configuration of it.
But we're not making the situation worse. You know, other towns that, and villages that we do this in, they say if it's pre-existing non-conforming, you're not making that non-conformity worse, then you.
I agree, I think it just differs from place to place.
Right.
Joe, do you have an
What,
opinion on that?
explain that to me again? What-
Okay, sure. This building here
Yeah.
is 12 feet off of the front property line,
Right,
and the zone, it's either 20 foot or 30 foot
right.
required. So that is currently non-conforming.
And what are you proposing anything on that? That's
Nothing.
out of there, right? Yeah.
Totally out of
No,
there.
I
All we're doing is we're taking this property
Yeah.
line and
Yeah.
moving it to here. So
No,
this
you're okay.
property is losing this.
You're okay.
There's still, I think it's a 30,000 square foot minimum lot area.
Right.
And we're gonna have 60,000.
Yeah.
We're gonna have twice the area.
No, you're okay with that?
Okay.
Yeah, just note it
Note it.
and
pre-existing
explain why
non-conforming.
it's,
Perfect.
you know,
Yeah.
Yep,
not a problem.
and I can find out the other information.
Yeah, I just don't touch it.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, it's fairly straightforward. I guess the only question I had for Joe too was whether, oh, I guess I didn't have a question on this one. Yeah, I mean, this one I think could be a seeker type two.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it's a sub, even though it's kind of a lot line, we don't really have that concept here, so it's a subdivision. But yes, I think it's a type 2.
Good.
So you guys would have to,
We have-
if you agree.
Yeah, we have to
would have
make a
to-
motion to refer this to the
Yeah.
county planning board? I'll
Well,
make a-
first you have to make a motion to declare it as a type two action.
I'll make a motion that we declare this as a type 2 action.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
And they also make a motion to refer this application to county planning.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I don't think there's anything else.
All right, so we'll respond to your comments, we'll resubmit for the.
Your comment, main comment was the catch bases where they're draining
Yep,
Hmm?
for water, and I'm worried about the easement. I wanna make sure we're not gonna get stuck with a problem down the road.
Yeah. Yep,
That easement goes on to that section of the soccer field?
yes.
it does, yes.
Cause you got state property down the road there a little bit
Right,
too.
yeah. it's
That is
deep,
state
deep,
property
deep.
right there.
Yeah. Yeah, sitting there, cause I live back on this side, right by the soccer.
Oh, you're right
field.
there?
It's back of my house, so I know where it is.
Ah.
If I wanna watch the kids, I walk to the back fence and watch them.
Okay, I think we're set, right?
All right,
Yeah.
all set?
Thank you.
See you next month. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next up, Trinity Point.
Good evening, everyone. Glenn Curry with Trinity Pawling School. We received a letter yesterday from Vivian, the memorandum that was issued by Sarah Drury out of Labella. We have representatives from Clark Companies with us this evening to discuss some of the questions that came up. You know, obviously, Sarah wasn't at the last meeting, but we explained at that time, so I'll say it again and we'll make sure we respond in writing, that the reason for this decision on the school to put in a turf field is because we have a drainage issue, which is very problematic. It causes flooding in the spring, and we've had to cancel baseball games as a result of it, which has a direct impact on our enrollment, and so we have to be very cognizant of that. And also, we're prohibited from using pesticides on our fields anymore, and that is critical to trying to maintain a proper athletic field, which is why so many schools are going toward turf in New York State. So that's really those are the main reasons for pursuing this. And one of the other questions was, how long has the school been in operation? And we've been in operation since 1907. So And we've occupied that property since 1909. The school originally started in the Dutcher House across the street. But in terms of the planning board undertaking review of the prior site plan and special use permit approval, I just wanted to find out what's involved with the planning board doing that. And will there be any luck in finding anything, being that we've been using this field for athletics since 1910, essentially, so I don't know what that's gonna.
What do you mean finding anything?
Well, it says that the planning board should undertake a review of prior site plan special use approval to determine if there are any existing conditions that the approval would affect.
Yeah, I mean, these are kind of just, you know, I haven't lived in Pawling, so I don't
Yeah.
know the real history.
Sure.
I am not Sarah Drury, I'm Karen Liberty.
No, I know that.
That's my memo.
No, I know.
So, yeah, I mean, generally speaking, we just asked for, you know, I know you guys went over the description and all that stuff at the last meeting, but
Yeah.
we just tried to rehash through it as much as we
Sure.
can so the public understands what's going on.
Yep.
Although I'm sure they do, because it's a tight-knit community here.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, it's common practice, and I like to try and get the board into the common practice of looking through the files that, you know,
Sure.
for sites. So, you know, we're not trying to stick you with
Oh,
anything.
no,
We're
I don't,
just trying to
I don't
find
think that
some-
at all. I just, obviously, we're concerned about the time frame. So.
What is your time frame?
Well, we want to start construction in August. I
Mhm.
mentioned that at the last meeting,
Mhm.
that's critical for us to get this. If we don't start in August, we will not have a field for next spring. And our goal is to have a usable field by spring.
And so you're expecting to get DEP approval for you're out of the DEP watershed, right?
Correct.
Okay, I see.
You know, and I know there's some questions, and Mabel's here from Clark, that she can answer some of these things that are outside my realm of understanding, but you know, our goal is to try and break ground no later than around August 10th, hopefully.
Well, we'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
You just came to
Yeah.
us last month, so, you know.
No, I understand that, and I expressed then that this would be, you know, on our part, it's whatever the village can do to help us expedite this would be appreciated. So,
Glenn, prior to the track being there,
yes.
that's no longer there, what was there? Was it always a track?
It was a field, yeah, they used to play football down there. I mean, the fields, the uses have changed, but the old photographs would show that's where the football field was. You know, there wasn't lacrosse back then, soccer was
Right.
really football. So that played in front of the field house, which is the building that's along Route 22 on the west side. So, yeah. Yeah, there used to be a track
Yes.
there that
Right.
on certain days when it's dry, you can actually see that. The
Oh, you
outline
still see
outline
that?
of the
You still
track.
see that?
If we
The
don't get
outline?
rain, you can, yeah. Yep. So maybe you wanna say something?
Yeah.
or-
I'm with Clark Companies and Catella Engineering. Jim normally would be here with us, but he is not with us today. I have Rob Champlin from Clark Companies to help answer any turf-related questions if you guys wanna come up with and see if you can't stump me, pass it on to Rob. I was not at the last meeting. I know Jim was here, gave you the brief overview, but I'm just gonna try to go through it fairly quickly and see if there's any other comments or questions that you guys come up with. We are looking for a August start date for the baseball field specifically. So it'll be a phased job with the area disturbance concentrating on baseball during the fall of this year, and then at some time spring, summer next year being the soccer field footprint. So that will keep us under the 5 acres of disturbance regarding the DEC thresholds for additional inspections, and also make things a lot neater for the site itself. Most of the site.
It'll keep you, excuse me, I'm sorry, it'll
Yep.
keep you under that threshold for both fields, like together, combined?
I think she's talking about the 5-acre waiver.
The 5 acre threshold regarding their areas of disturbance. Baseball itself will be reduced to under 5 acres, and
Right.
soccer itself is reduced under 5 acres. The site as a whole is
Yeah.
like 6 point something.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, so permitting will go together as one project,
Right.
but will be phased, so it'll be 2 separate construction
Right.
seasons. Say that clearly?
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. Layout of the baseball field is set up that we are shifting it so that the third base foul line can have some more space that's on level ground behind the foul line footprint, so that there'd be more room for spectators and teams and warm-up space. So the baseball field itself is shifting towards Route 22. And the soccer field is gonna basically stay in its same footprint, but it is gonna get bigger to, help me out here, regulation size?
For high school, it's 70 by, so 210 by 360.
Right, so they're looking for a regulation size field, which they don't currently quite fit there now, but we're gonna
Yep.
put in the turf, we're gonna drive for that so that they have maximized use out of the available space that they have.
Sorry, that was for baseball or for soccer?
For
So
soccer?
that's the
Okay.
soccer field.
Baseball, they're looking at 330 down the main center line and 310 in the power alleys, 300 down the foul lines.
If you don't get the regulation size soccer field, does that restrict the athletic events that you can possibly have there?
No,
No?
it doesn't, no.
They're not-
I thought maybe there's certain leagues or certain,
Well, we would continue to use the field. It just wouldn't
You
conform
just
to
can
the,
do,
to the
Right,
you,
I-
you just can use it.
I thought
as
maybe
a-
academically, you had to have a certain
Yeah,
size
stuff
field.
like that, all right.
Usually it would be like playoffs or
Right.
state championships.
Right, we wouldn't be able to host any
Wouldn't be able
events.
to host.
You won't be able to
Games you
host.
can
Host any major events.
That's the
Yeah,
point I
That's
wanna
the
make.
point, you
Yes.
wanna be able to
Yeah.
host the major
Exactly.
events.
Yeah, so it's important that you get
You
that,
get that in there,
Yep.
'cause you gotta
right.
host the major
You wanna-
events,
you wanna-
otherwise. you
Yep.
lose.
Exactly, exactly.
Especially when you
Schools
build it to
travel.
turf, because expansion is expensive.
Right.
So you want to
Yeah,
try and
it
do
makes
it all
the
at first.
Well, I know.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay.
Welcome. Any other questions on that? So site access for these two fields, right now, they access the baseball field by walking across the soccer field. They can still do that. We're not putting a fence in that perimeter curve. So pedestrians could still walk across the soccer field unless, of course, there's a soccer game or whatnot going on. And in terms of maintenance access, we are providing a 6-foot wide grass walkway around the outside limits of the turf footprint, so that any maintenance equipment that needs to get to the baseball field can still do that. Students access the field footprint across the pedestrian bridge over Route 22, so that's not changing. Okay? Questions? All right.
I have a question. If
Yeah.
all the stars line up
Yeah.
and you start construction in August,
Mm-hmm.
when will the field be complete?
Mid-November. We want to get it in, this is a little better, in the Northeast, you typically want the construction season over by October 30th. But you can push that out to, maybe Thanksgiving-ish. The actual infill installation in the turf is fairly weather sensitive, so you don't want it raining and icing and stuff like that. So that's kind of the driver. You want to get to that step, and that's really the last phase of a turf field construction.
Because chain link fence and all that stuff can go up
Yeah, it can go anytime.
when your fingers aren't
Yep.
frozen, but
Right.
put gloves on.
Right.
Anything else? Okay. Drainage for the two fields. So in existing conditions, the soccer field drains to a French drain on this northern edge and a French drain along the edge of baseball. And then on the outfield of baseball, there is a French drain. And there is a French drain on the far side of the discus landing zone. All of those French drains then are outletted to a detention basin, which you can see right here is this dry detention basin where all these French drains then outlet to. We're not changing that. What we're proposing to do is, with the turf fields, they're a vertically draining system. So the water that lands on the turf perks through the carpet into the stone base and can be managed and maintained just like a giant bathtub. Okay, at the outlet system, we can put in a weir plate that controls the rate and the volume of water that leaves the site. And what we're doing is the soccer field ultimately overflows into the baseball field, which then outlets into the detention basin on site. All of the perimeter drainages are either gonna be picked up by rerouted French drains or back to sheet flow away from the turf field footprint, so that we're not creating an additional stormwater storage for an area that's not necessary.
So in current conditions, it outlets to the detention basin.
Mhm.
And in proposed conditions, it outlets to the detention basin.
Yes. This is our drainage mapping for current. The purple highlight discharges over the bank kind of uncontrolled. okay? The yellow highlight ultimately somehow enters in a French drain somewhere and ends up in this dry detention basin down here. Proposed conditions. The purple highlight is the same drainage area that goes over the bank uncontrolled, because it's still just a sheet flow surface. Not a lot of water, not a lot of quantity, not a lot of volume. The yellow still will enter a French drain, still will go to the detention basin. The two green fields will also then go to the detention basin.
And you're maintaining the hydrology.
With the two sites where we tested and got the best results for infiltration was this footprint here and this footprint here. In the modeling, we are only modeling for infiltration over those two surfaces. The rest of the field is providing storage, but it's not being modeled that it can go into the ground in those footprints. Obviously, in ideal conditions, where you model on your native soil and you proof roll a subgrade, just because that subgrade infiltrates really well and this subgrade didn't test so great, water will still come into contact here, but it's not being modeled as part of the infiltration practice, where it's only being modeled over this square footage. This gives us an additional factor of safety for during the design, during the construction, during the build process, that if there's an additional piece of infiltration happening where we didn't model for it, that's also helping, allowing the water to infiltrate into the ground in those particular footprints. So all of the water is being concentrated to those two footprints, and anything above and beyond the water quality volume can then exit the system. Okay? Questions there? No? All right. Again, because this is a phased project, with the baseball field going first, the construction entrance will come across this lower corner of the soccer field. And then once the soccer field is built, that construction entrance will work its way out and maintain the same access that the school maintenance uses to that particular footprint, just be restored back to a dry surface. Okay? Getting into some site details. For the baseball field, we are utilizing a 0.5% slope from the pitcher's mound that's graded out via a cone laser. So from the pitcher's mound out, it's a 0.5% slope. And then once I get beyond this footprint here, I transition to then a 1% slope on site grade to give us more stone storage within that footprint. Take advantage of all that surface area and be able to control the water footprint in that territory. Because it's so big and so flat, and use it where I can. Okay? And at baseball, there is also a weir plate and outlet structure where it will then outlet out here and then tie into an existing structure. We've looked at it for integrity purposes. We are planning on removing it and replacing it during construction process, but if during the build they decide it's safer to leave this structure alone, we'll come in through the sidewall, do it that way, but more expensive route would be remove and replace. On the soccer field, we are utilizing a 0.25% slope across the turf field. So we're pitching from the high edge to the low edge at a 0.25% slope. So all the water will be concentrated towards this low end sideline collector line. That collector line's lying flat on subgrade. And the collector trench that's there, basically giving the water a chance to equalize within its own footprint and infiltrate over that smaller surface area. Any questions?
Sounds like you suddenly have the water under control.
I try my best.
Who's picking up the bubble gum and the seeds?
Bubble gum and the seeds. There is a groomer that does
I know
maintain
that.
the turf footprint.
I know
I think that's what that's job is for.
Because they're not allowed on those fields.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. One of the questions that was directed to us was how much cut and fill are anticipated to be needed. Given that it is a phased job, I'll give you the part as a whole and then for the 2 phases. We're looking at 3,700 cubic yards of cut as a whole and 3,200 cubic yards of fill for the job site as a whole. Since we're doing baseball first, baseball we're looking at 1,500 cubic yards of cut and 1,700 cubic yards of fill. For soccer, it's 1,000 cubic yards of cut and 700 cubic yards of fill. So each field basically balances, and it's just a little bit of the topsoil restorations around the perimeter that fill in the gap.
That's coming in on trucks?
The cuts and fills?
Yeah, or it's on.
That's all.
It's
It'll be
got
all-
straight, it's good, that's your, yeah.
It's on the property there,
It's on-
because you're cutting. You
Right.
Yeah, it'll be
fill where you
all
gotta
within the
cut.
2-field footprint.
Yeah, you
We
cut
really
on
don't
the,
like
you
trucking
cut on
anywhere.
the low side there, but you're great from the down, so you're cutting and filling right there, you're
Mhm.
grading.
Yep.
Cutting and filling.
That's good.
You're not even coming out on the street, like you said, anything you bring in is probably topsoil, but you'll strip the topsoil that's there first.
Correct,
that you
correct.
can
We're
use.
gonna end up with, roughly 3,000 cubic yards of topsoil that's extra.
That's where we make some money.
One of the other comments that was addressed was regarding, has the applicant contacted the DEC regarding the bog turtle concern? So we've done some additional research, thanks to Dan pulling some strings for us. There has been a bog turtle sighting within a mile of this particular location. We are going to look into getting a bog turtle scientist to take a look at the site, see what would we need to do in terms of protecting the site for a construction phase or habitat kind of protection regarding this particular footprint with the bog turtle. Since we're not in a wetland territory, we're not in the wetland check zone, we're beyond its actual natural habitat, but if it happens to want to migrate for any reason, we wanna make sure before we run it over with a dozer.
So you found out about the location from DEC?
We've reached out to a couple of people to see if there's any information that they can give us, and they told us that their understanding is that there's been a sighting of a turtle within a mile of our location. DEC has not gotten back to us. I reached out and sent an inquiry, and I got an automatic response back of, we'll talk to you in 4 to 6 weeks.
Was that to what, to the
That was the
wildlife?
that was the natural heritage
Oh,
sighting.
skip them. You
Okay.
have to email the regional permit administrator.
Okay.
And actually you should email, it's like wildlife at the same address.
Okay, not natural heritage, 'cause
Yeah.
that's what showed up on the website and all that stuff. I'm like,
Yeah,
it's not
it's
cool
just-
that they give me 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, they're more focused on rare and species of special concern now. And I think they had so many inquiries that they pushed anything that was endangered or threatened back to the DEC's permit administrator staff.
I see,
So,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
So actually, you're just being a little bit proactive here, you're not required to do this with the bog turtle, you just wanna make sure.
Right, since we've been mapped as being in a area of a rare plant and animal,
Right.
we're looking to see, what does that mean?
You're doing yourself
What are we
a
required
favor.
to do? If it's
Don't
installing
finish
silt
such
fence
a
backwards to
project right
prevent them
now.
from accessing the site to lay their eggs for, like, say, the soccer phase, since that'll be possibly the spring job. It's that simple, well, we volunteer.
Right, exactly.
Well, the DEC obviously regulates bog turtles, so they'll have something to say, but, you know,
Yes, they will.
they're getting ahead of it by, looking into
You're
it.
doing the best thing is getting ahead of
Yeah.
it, because they'll come in and shut you right down.
Mhm. And the last statement that you had that we were prepared to address tonight, because, I mean, there is stormwater management questions, but
You can put those, I mean,
if there's
please,
a way that we can
everything
talk
in
to
writing,
Sarah
but yeah, sure.
directly
Mhm.
as streamlining the conversation, that would make things go a
Yeah,
little quicker.
absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
you can email, we're all in the same email, right? When they have our email, or is it? At any rate, you can contact Vivian. Vivian will give you Sarah and my email, and then we can go from there and set up a call.
We'll go from there,
Yeah.
perfect,
I already told Sarah that you guys wanted to interact, and so she's
wonderful,
ready to do that.
wonderful. So the last one I have, I'm probably gonna kick into Rob's lap unless you have easy questions. Providing information on materials used in synthetic turf and the manufacturer.
Mhm.
So,
So
see
do
how
it.
easy it is and if I punt it.
I'll do a little show and tell because that's easier to do. But
Yeah, I'm interested in this.
This is a synthetic infill turf, the manufacturer's field turf. It has a solid backing on it. They coat the fingers in the factory, so these are all plastic grass plates that poke up through the fabric. So they're all stitched in, and then they roll it through a coating machine that just coats the fingers. So the advantage of that product is that the sand and rubber that goes in this part that provides all the cushioning for the field stays in that. It doesn't, there's other systems that have punched holes and would allow for some migration, this one doesn't. So this is, like I said, this will get laid on the field on the stone and then infilled with sand and rubber and brushed so that all these fibers stand up and it provides the cushion for the athletes.
So what is the maintenance, well, a few questions.
Sure.
If, for instance, the planning board chose to condition an approval that it was gonna be a closed system, one that doesn't migrate.
Yep.
Are there more than one type? Should you come into construction and suddenly there's, so much demand for this one type that you can't get it from anybody else? Like, are there other manufacturers?
There are other manufacturers. That particular system is patented.
Mm-hmm.
We're not a distributor of that product. We're a customer, so to say, but we partner with them on 90% of our fields.
Mm-hmm.
We're one of the largest builders in the country, so we do have preferential treatment with install crews and manufacturing dates and stuff like that. So we don't have a problem getting that.
And then what is the maintenance over time? Because things do break down, especially sitting in the sun.
So these fibers, like I said, stand up.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest problem with these for maintenance is the infill gets displaced, and that's in like high wear areas. Like for soccer field, it's in the corner kick areas.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball field, it's in the batter's boxes, pitcher's mound. It's anywhere where there's repetitive foot traffic. So the best way to do that is after each use, they take some infill out there and brush it in and replace that stuff that's been displaced.
Would that be weekly, monthly, seasonal?
That's some of the high wear areas, especially baseball. It's after each contest, the team does it. They go out and broom some stuff in, hopefully. For a soccer field, there's a piece of maintenance equipment with a drag brush and like tines that go along. You tow it behind a gator or a small tractor, and it smooths everything out. There's also, if you get down the road and do a maintenance contract with, a specialty contractor, there's a machine that actually sucks the infill out, vacuums it, and puts it back down. So that's kind of the next level. You can use that to rejuvenate like a 10-year-old field or 12-year-old field. We're seeing lifespans of 12 years now in this neck of the woods.
How about the UV protection with the color?
That's the issue with these fibers breaking down. We don't really have that big a problem in the Northeast. More so down south, like Georgia, Arizona, anywhere where there's Texas, anywhere where there's a lot of sun. UV breaks it down first. They last like 8 years. The manufacturer's warranty is 8 years.
Did you people do the field up the Renegade Stadium this year?
We did not. No.
They just put a brand new one in.
Oh, yeah.
Does it have you may have already spoken to this, but I just want to make sure I understand it. So if it lasts 12 years, which
Yep.
sounds like it's great, if it
Yep.
does, right?
Yep.
It gets yanked out and you do it again?
So
Is that, or can it be maintained piecemeal?
there's been a lot of, so the baseball field actually will be maintained piecemeal. Those batter's boxes and pitching landing areas will get worn out.
They'll have to be replenished.
So every year they get
Right.
replaced. In general, everything else, either it's all or nothing,
Yeah.
pretty much. The infill these days is like sucked up with a vacuum cleaner and little conveyor chute and bagged, and they put it out in a parking lot somewhere and actually reuse that. They only put new like top rubber, so they've made a lot of strides toward recycling this stuff, and the actual carpet and fiber and stuff goes to a recycling center, and they make another plastic product out of it these days. There's one in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania right now, just coming online. So it's been a big concern because he's been about 15 years roughly, 20 years. I'm dating myself. 20 years now, where they've been going down, and there's a lot of them going down, so there's a lot of it coming up. So there's been a lot of R&D in this recycling of all this stuff.
What did you say the infill was comprised of?
So it's crumb rubber, recycled crumb rubber, and sand. So it's layers of each in this particular product.
And how big is the
So-
rubber? Are they round little,
They're tiny, they're, 10 millimeters, something like that.
So the crumb rubber could migrate then?
You see a little bit of migration off on kids' shoes, but there are best management practices in the industry to keep it contained. So you make perimeter curbing or sidewalks exposed that kind of hold it before it goes. Fences. There's a bunch of options to contain that infill. Like I said, the biggest cause of infill migration would be down through the turf. So it's already the biggest step that they've made to contain everything, to keep it all on the field.
Gotcha.
You mean like sort of natural scraping surfaces as you walk?
Yeah,
off the
yeah.
turf and
You
stuff?
see it,
Yeah.
like if your kids play on it,
Yeah.
they'll drag it out, be in your socks or whatever. But it's not any large quantities. There's 500 tons of this stuff, that go in a field, so.
Did you have perimeters put in place for whatever flow off in part of the sheet flow at the edges of the fields?
So, with this turf field, when the water lands on this surface, it's going all the way through the sand and the rubber and through this back end.
Right.
There's no way for it to then migrate horizontally.
I think you're talking about the infill in particular.
I think
I
that-
think that's what you're talking about. You're talking
Yeah,
about
if you got
the
a
infill,
really
right?
heavy rain, and let's say it does get flooded down there, because there is so many, like, it's a wet area, obviously, that's what it
So
redoing
this
it
stuff
to this.
drains at the carpet itself will drain at 100 inches an hour. They test the stone to make sure that drains at 20 inches an hour. You don't get any storms that are that. They've installed these in floodplains where it does, literally 6 feet of water, it's right into a goalpost or something like that, then obviously you have an issue. But with stuff like this, it goes through it so fast that it doesn't pick
Right.
up and float away.
There's not a chance for it to get trapped in bubble and then migrate someplace else. It's just flushing through it so quickly.
We have
Exactly.
an existing football field that's turf, we've had for 10 years.
Yes.
And we've dealt with some massive rainstorms, last summer's rainstorm, and the field absorbed all that rain, those 8 inches of water.
Yeah.
This is more curiosity than anything else, but
Sure.
What's the safety? It's a slippery vibe, it seems to me. I just wonder how that works in terms of.
So the footwear they
running.
use typically is like a same cleat as you would use in natural grass.
Yeah.
The surface, so this will get filled up to where there's 3/4 of an inch of grass blade exposed.
Yeah, I'm sure the surface feels, but I'd
Right.
rather fall on it than grass.
Exactly.
I'm asking literally like about slippage. almost.
Slippage
Like,
for like sliding in baseball.
Yeah.
You'll see them slide like when they first start to do it.
Yeah.
If it's wet, they'll slide past it.
Yeah.
But as far as footwear, you're playing on the infill. You're playing on the sand and rubber, so you have spikes, and it's not slippery from an
Gotcha.
athlete's perspective.
Right.
But if you start sliding and like
Yeah.
hydroplaning,
Right.
then there is.
Do you have animal issues or plant life issues with the synthetic turf?
Mm.
They're coming after it or attracted to it in some weird way?
Not really. It usually keeps the geese away.
Yeah, once the geese realize it's not edible, they move on.
And then is there another option for the type of infill that goes into it?
There are various options
Mhm.
of, there's all kinds of different organic stuff. There's been some concerns, with the crumb rubber, but there's literally over 110 studies done on the crumb rubber. The EPA was the last one to weigh in, and there's still no ill effects. There's a lot of sometimes media attention, especially in the Connecticut area, to, the recycled crumb rubber because it's truck tires, right? But like I said, there's over 110 studies now to date, and we can furnish them that prove it's fine.
Yeah, I don't know that we need all 110.
Supply list, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have with me some specifics, so I can hand them to you right now.
So I take it that particular system works with a certain particular infill. You can't really just switch it out.
It's not the best. They offer it. They're more costly.
Mhm.
Some of them, like I mentioned, the organic stuff. So they've done coconuts and cork and stuff like that. That stuff does tend to migrate because it's lighter and it's finer particles. So they do tend to pick up. Some of them you have to water to keep in place. And spring baseball is February, so that's going to be hard as a rock, because it retains water. So there's trade-offs to safety,
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it feels like one of the advantages of the turf field would be that you don't have to water it all the time.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yep. And it's good for stormwater management because of the stone reservoir underneath. You can do a lot to detain
So why
stormwater.
put it in and then have sprinklers going 24 hours a day?
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
So, you guys will provide a response to comments, so,
Yes,
in writing?
yes.
That
Yep,
would be
that's-
helpful.
Very doable.
I don't have any other questions. I think, sorry, I just wanna look at my notes here for a minute.
There was the lead agency issue.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that right now. We can declare that we can make the agency, correct, Karen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I make a motion that we declare, we become the agency.
I'll second.
Aye.
Aye.
And then
And public
public
hearing?
hearing and county planning.
Yep. And I make a motion that we,
All right.
yep, that we, set the public hearing, Vivian?
For,
August.
Yeah, the same, yeah, we wanna keep this moving.
Let's keep it moving. I'll second it, so it takes care of that. All in favor, aye? Aye.
And the next step is I'll make a motion that we refer this to, the county planning.
I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
So I would work, I know you'll do this, but I would work closely with Karen on comments, because as you heard, that next meeting is August 13th.
Correct,
It's already
right,
kind of
right,
past
which
your,
is-
you
yeah.
know, bedtime. So, you know, we'll try to help. I think if technical details are met, we'll at least be in a position to act.
On that public hearing.
You know,
right?
if
Okay.
the board decides to do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
understandable.
Push the bog turtles, that's your biggest problem,
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's your biggest problem.
Yeah, I mean, the state and county agencies, you just get them lined up. They're the slow stuff.
And the county planning, do they tend to respond quickly?
They have
or-
30 days to respond, so we'll get this circulated to them quickly.
Okay.
If you have connections there, it probably
Yeah.
wouldn't hurt to.
That's right, I can make a phone call.
So there is
Thank
enough
you.
time between now and the next meeting that they either will have responded, and if they do, they might have innocuous comments, or say it's a
Okay.
matter of local concern and not be worried, or they might have some comments that we'll have to take into account.
Yep.
If they don't answer at all, we can technically act without it. I mean, they typically answer though,
Yep.
so I would press them,
Yep.
you know, if you can.
Yep.
Yeah.
who else besides county am I circulating to?
The DEC. And I think that's it. Are there any other approvals that you know of that you need? Any
Normally
other
it's just
involved
the
agencies?
MS4 acceptance form that we then submit to the DEC and go from there.
No municipal boundary issue, I don't think.
You mean within,
Yeah.
like within 500 feet of
Yeah, I
the
mean,
town line? I
that
don't
kind
believe
of
so.
thing, I don't think so.
No.
These are the best things to plan, the best for the
What
kids
about,
too.
New York State 22 highway?
You're not doing anything with your access,
No
right?
curb cuts, right?
No curb cuts, not touching.
Good
the
question though, Viv, good question.
highway. You're not coming to the state highway, so you got nothing to worry about, you're not cutting the curb, so thank God for that, because that would drive you crazy. You left, you gotta deal with them, they're nuts.
That's great. So, just a quick question, with regard to the MS4 acceptance letter and getting the DEC permit process going, is there any way we could do that, like, once the stormwater comments are satisfied? In other words, do we need to wait for the next planning board meeting to do that, or could we do that concurrently if the stormwater comments and everything else from that perspective are satisfied? Just make that submission.
So, I think your biggest issue is the bog turtles.
Yeah.
Because our MS4 officer, is essentially gonna.
That would go through them?
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Until we hear from DEC that they're not concerned, or that you've met their concerns with barrier fencing or
Yep.
what have you, the MS4 officer won't be able to sign off on it.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, you don't need a site plan approval to submit your NOI.
proceed with
But then,
that,
of course,
right.
you start having to, as soon as you start ground disturbance, you have to do the inspections and, you know, all that
Yep.
part, so.
Yep, sure.
So if we got the DEC to respond or be satisfied within a couple of weeks saying, you know, they're gonna put up barriers of protection, can that MS work continue forward prior to the 13th?
I mean, I can't make any promises right now based
Yeah, no,
on,
I'm
but
not, but, I mean, if things aligned.
if things
could it?
align, yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Any other
Thank
questions?
you.
That's it.
No, that was,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time.
thank you. A lot of the engineering information was over my face ago.
Yeah, Sarah will watch the video, she always does. So. It's highly complex. So I'll get that.
Yeah, do you have any other business?
No.
Motion adjourned.
Second motion.
Favor?
Aye.
All right, folks. Drive safe.
Will do, thank you.
Too.